Hello. Welcome to this week's Procrasticast. This week, we're going to talk about our favorite video game villains. Hey.
Hey.
Is Vegeta black?
He is brown. Hello, welcome. This week's the third week anniversary that we're celebrating of the Procrasticast.
Here on turboloot.com.
Turboloot.com.
So we're going to be talking about our favorite villains. This kind of stemmed from last week's discussion on our favorite characters.
Yeah. We did think about it a little bit this time, so it'll probably flow a little bit better. I am at Alex H on Twitter.
I am at AlphaDude21 on everything.
And our favorite video game villains.
Yeah. So
first, let's talk about what goes into what makes. What goes into your favorite video game villains? Like what does that character have to have?
I mean, they have to. I mean, a lot of my favorite villains are villains that don't necessarily, or they're not there just to do evil. They think they're doing what they're doing for the good of people, but they are misguided. There are some.
A lot of them are probably sociopaths. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, I like to know what the backstory is of the character. So if there is a backstory, I mean, I like a lot of anti-heroes where they are the villain, but you kind of relate to them somehow a little bit. They have a cool backstory. They're badass, or they contribute so much to the story, because I mean there are a lot of villains in games, but it takes a lot to go up to them. But there's not a lot of build up that goes into when you finally fight that person, or you finally confront that person, or whatever. So yeah, I mean,
what's your favorite villain? Or what is one of your favorite villains?
Well, I know we talked about it last week a little bit, so I will not include this one in my list, but I mean, Arthas is definitely one of them. He's an anti-hero because he was a good guy at first in Warcraft 3, and then he ended up becoming the Lich King. But I mean, from his perspective, I don't know, he's just the most badass character.
Yes, he is like. Well, I mean, he's one of my favorite characters overall, as we discussed.
Yeah,
before.
yeah, absolutely.
But just him as a villain, he's just such a fucking cool, badass character.
Yeah,
that it's hard to not like him.
All right,
so being that guy.
So we're talking about video game villains. Another thing that I think goes into a very good video game villain is the difficulty when you finally get to them. So they have to be hard, or else, I mean, you could have a really good story for this villain, but if they're like a pushover, there's not a lot of gratification when you finally beat them. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Arthas, I know we're just going to talk about Arthas every episode, but Arthas is definitely one of those characters. It was such like a glorious moment when you beat him. Yeah,
very much so.
So yeah, let's count down our favorite villains. I probably had my top in my head, but I didn't really think about actually the bottom list of it. Give me just one of yours. What one of yours?
This might be. I don't know if this is the best answer for favorite villain, but you played The Last of Us.
I have played The Last of Us.
The zombie characters in that game are one of my favorite villains. They're the bad guys. They're one of the groups of the bad guys, but is zombies in general across all video games, like Resident Evil.
Yeah,
Last
they
of Us.
Play the
whether or not they're zombies or
right,
not, but zombie type characters are.
So you're going with the group of characters.
The group of villains.
Yeah, that's a freaky ass character.
Yeah, I love zombies. I'm into the movies, into the games. I mean, zombies are one of my top set.
Did you know those zombies are the parasite or whatever
that The Last of Us is based off of?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah, they infect ants and they control the ants. It's creepy.
Can you just imagine?
One day we'll all be dead.
What zombies. That'll be what that could look like on a larger scale. Actually, The Last of Us is a perfect example of that. Play that game. It's great. I did not beat that game because I'm a wussy. So
I love that game.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite games.
I will watch you play that game.
Yeah, I love that game.
And then
maybe we'll play it on here one day.
Maybe.
I love that game. I'm trying to think of some other good villains. The bad guy from Suikoden 2. Whose name I'm blanking.
Is that the same game with one of your... You mentioned one of your favorite characters from Suikoden.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
Just in general? Okay.
Just in general.
Yeah.
The bad guy, the prince, whose name is escaping me, he's just utterly evil.
Yeah, yeah.
And just such a bad guy. But, like, in his head, he's, like, fighting for his country. But... At least that's what it seems like at the beginning. And kind of, he's just a lot more evil than he actually is.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a good character.
Yeah, and you kind of got to like the character. I mean, you have to like the character, right? Yeah. Like a little bit.
And you meet him super early in the game, and you just see like you're just dealing with him through a large portion of the game.
All right.
And he's a bastard when you actually fight him.
All right, let me see. For me, probably one of my favorite villains in a game, or like an antagonist in a game, probably Sephiroth. Because he's such a fucker, man. Like if you've never played that game before, and spoiler alert if you have not.
Spoiler alert for a game that came out in the 90s.
A long time ago, yeah. But everybody knows about this. He in the middle of the game, not even in the middle of the game, maybe like the third of the way into the game, he kills Eris. Who you've leveled up and geared up at that point. If you've never played it and you weren't expecting it, oh my god, that was such a shitty moment. Did you play that? Oh, but you've heard of it,
yeah.
And it was such a fucking it was the first time I think like a game has ever done anything like that where they killed off one of the main playable characters.
Yeah,
and it was insane. It was crazy, and then. I mean, he was hard at the end. I mean, the very, very last boss isn't even really a fight. You just pick your last limit break and you beat him. But you fight like several different versions of him leading up to just fighting him. And yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty hard if you didn't level up. I mean, for any RPG, I guess depending on how much you grind prior to that will dictate how hard it is. But. Yeah, man, Sephiroth, and I think for a lot of people that's the case, or I mean they might feel the same. People might feel the same way. Yeah, I mean if let us know your favorite supervillains, absolutely in the comments below. You have any other ones?
I mean one of my favorite games, and I mean I know I talk about Blizzard quite a bit, but one of my favorite games, who has always like my favorite villain at the end is Diablo.
There you go. Yeah.
Diablo.
You fight the devil himself.
It's such a good game, and like the entire build up, and obviously the game is named after him. You fight the devil.
There you go. Yeah. And even in the expansions, you fight Death in the next in the next expansion or Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Very very cool villains, but yeah, Diablo absolutely.
Just the entire grouping of like angels and demons you fight in that game. Which is so cool. They always like the concept art of those characters is also one of my favorite things. Like just seeing their development process. I love it. Super, super dark.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the devil. Don't get much darker. But I love
very good, very fun game too.
Yeah, very, very good game.
It doesn't hurt to have a good game tied to a shitty villain, right?
Yeah.
How about the silliest video game character for you, like
villain?
Oh yeah, video game villain. Sorry, just like they just. So for me, they're just like character that keeps coming back, but you just trump them every time. They're not incredibly hard. And I'm looking at this Mario Party box right here. I'm looking at Bowser.
Yeah.
Right. Like Bowser is the villain. Bowser is the villain.
Yeah.
But he
gets punked all the time.
He just gets punked all the time.
Over and over again. He doesn't give up.
Falling in lava. Whatnot. We probably won't go too much into that, but because we're talking about our favorite villain. But I would say, like, for a silly character, I do like Bowser a lot.
Bowser's a good character. I mean, he's kind of dopey, but
yeah. I mean, in his point of view, I mean, he's just trying to,
he's just trying to get that girl.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what his intentions are, but
if you haven't seen it, check out the Game Theorist YouTube channel, because he goes over how Bowser is actually kind of like an anti-hero, or should be the hero of the game, and Mario is actually the bad guy. It's pretty interesting. Have you seen anything like that?
No.
I won't spoil it for you, but yeah,
watch it.
Check it out if you. It's very cool, and then maybe we could talk about. Well, I'll have you watch. Have you seen it?
No.
Have you watched it? Maybe we could talk about that. Just like kind of speculate on that. But yeah, Bowser definitely one of the top, just because he's just a silly dude.
Ganon.
I was gonna bring him up. Yeah, definitely Ganon. Yeah,
Ganondorf.
Yeah.
In Ocarina of Time, the fight on top of the castle.
Yeah,
is one of my favorite fights.
Yeah,
in video games.
In general, just like even in just what have I played most recently? Probably the Wind Waker. Even at the end there, I mean, he wasn't like too incredibly hard. You did have Zelda helping you, but yeah, you do look forward to that fight a lot, like leading up, and I think that's why Zelda games are so so they're so good, or they're so what's the word for, like, it's so widely accepted that it's a good game. Just because of how the story is told, and everything that leads up to you finally fighting Ganon.
And I mean, all those games always make you think and like hate the villain, because like even if it's not Ganon, like it, Oracle Ages and Oracle Seasons. Yeah. Like those characters, those villains, you just hate as you go through the game, because you see what they're doing and see them like destroying things and like turning things against like what they were. And then Nintendo has been good about making you hate all of Link's villains. Yeah. So, would you say that is like your most hated character playing a game? Like what game? How about like villains that games where you just absolutely fucking hated them? Like you just like you did not like them. Right, but I mean, and then that it makes him a good villain. But Dr. Wily,
is that Sonic, or is that that's Eggman? Dr. Wily's Mega Man.
Dr. Wily's Mega Man.
Mega Man, yeah.
There's Dr. Robotnik.
Oh,
Sonic, that's what he was called before Eggman.
Yeah.
Eggman is I think what he was called in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Wily. Fuck Dr. Wily.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Never good intentions from him. It was just I'm gonna build robots to take over the world.
Yeah.
Fuck that. And those games are overly hard for me. I suck at those games.
Oh, the Mega Man games? Yeah, those were good. I mean, just classic games, they're just generally, it's just like very hard.
I was good at them when I was 6, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, for most of it, like when you were a kid, you didn't care about the story or anything like that. You wanted to play the game. So they didn't have a lot of the story. It was just that they just made it hard, you know, because you could fit a lot of those. I don't know, you can really fit a lot of those cartridges, right? They just put a bunch of shit on the screen and for me, the character that I did not like, that I can think of in like more recent history is probably Seymour in Final Fantasy X. Did you play Final Fantasy X? God, I hate it. I fucking hated that guy. Yeah. I hated that guy. He was just like oh, I'm God. I want to kill sin because sin kills people, and then, once I take over the power of sin, I'm going to kill everybody so they don't have to fear sin or something like that. It was just so fucking stupid. Like,
it's like kill everybody because then there will be no fear.
And he stole my chick, man. Like, he tried to steal my chick. I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the common theme for a lot of these games. Zelda, Mario. But yeah.
Damsel in distress.
Yeah. But probably, for me, I probably got the most out of Sephiroth. Just going back to Sephiroth. The Lich King was cool. Like, the Lich King was very cool because, you did like him. Same thing with Illidan. Illidan had a really cool story. He kind of turned himself into Illidan's definitely an anti-hero, just like Arthas. So
yeah. Nefarian was kind of a uber bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But you played a lot of vanilla, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play vanilla. I started playing like late BC. Played a little bit, then went into Wrath of the Lich King. Started really playing Wrath of the Lich King. All right, well,
that was our favorite villains.
Yeah,
or least favorite villains. I don't know how you.
We had our favorites and then we had our least favorites. I think mine both come from Final Fantasy. Let us know your favorite villains in the comments below, or feel free to tweet at us at Turboloot Games with the hashtag Procrasticast, if you can spell that correctly.
Good luck with that. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what's going good, what you'd like to see us do different.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting us, and see you next week.
Bye.
A lot of what goes into it is when you can't, there is empathy. Unless you're explicit.
Yeah, that joke.
But I mean, even then, I mean, a lot of if you're explicit, maybe people that. Maybe identify more with villains. I don't fucking know. But yeah, that's another episode we could talk about. Favorite villains.